Hello, and welcome to the law firm of Kidwell, Kent, and Curran. My name is John Kidwell. Today we're going to discuss the last will and testament. Now, most people understand exactly what a will is. It's a document where you say, when I die, I leave my property to X, Y, and Z. And that's correct. But there's more to it than that. You see, your will is not necessarily going to say, I have property at 525 Make-Believe Avenue. Or this account with Smith Barney, here's the account number, here's what's in the account, and I'll leave it to X, Y, and Z. Whether it's your children, your spouse, your siblings, or charity for that matter. It's instead going to say, I hereby give, devise, and bequeath the rest, residue, and remainder of my estate of whatsoever nature and wheresoever situate unto X, Y, and Z. This is what we call the residuary clause of your last will and testament. And it's more generic, if you will, because we don't know what property you're going to have in 5 days, let alone 20 years from now. And you don't want to have to change your will every time you move or change accounts. That would become a little bit onerous. Now, the question that presents itself is, okay, well, what constitutes the rest, residue, and remainder of my estate? Well, the answer is property that has not passed in any other number of different ways. I will, of course, explain. The first way property passes at death is by title. The second, by contract. And then, by your will. And your will has the least amount of precedence. I will start off with the example of a husband and wife who own a house where they have taken title as tenants by the entirety with common law right of survivorship. Husband dies. By operation of common law right of survivorship, because that's the way the husband and wife took title on the deed to their house, the wife gets the property. In fact, the husband's will could say it goes to Joe Schmo down the street. Doesn't matter. Title takes precedence. But what happens when the husband dies? Now the spouse, the wife, dies 10 years later. There's no right of survivorship to the children, or anybody else for that matter. So the state, which is who's concerned about where your property goes at death, wants to know, well, what was your desire, your will, as to the disposition of your property when you die? You see, when the husband and wife took title as tenants by the entirety with common law right of survivorship, their will, their desire as to the disposition of the property at their death was spelled out in the way they took title to the house. But now, when she dies, no right of survivorship to the children, state says, okay, well, what does she want done with this property? Falls into the residuary clause of the last will and testament and passes pursuant to the terms of the will. I often refer to the last will and testament as the catch net of the estate, because it catches property that has not passed by right of survivorship, title, or by contract, beneficiary designation, or payable on death designee, which I'll get to here in a second. Neither one of those designations determine where the property is to go. The last will and testament catches it, the catch net. And I call it the net because it casts a broader net of possibilities than a specific right of survivorship on title or beneficiary designation possibly could. Because what if this person predeceases leaving children surviving? What if this person predeceases leaving no children surviving? Then where does it go? Then where does it go? And on down the line. That's what the will does. It casts this broad net. The second way property passes at death is by contract. Beneficiary designation, or POD, payable on death designee. 401ks, IRAs, life insurance policies, also mutual funds where stocks are held, investment accounts, checking and savings accounts, all can pass by contract. You see, and by the way, they never ask you when you set up a checking or savings account, and it's called a POD, payable on death designee. All you need to do is go to them, ask for a form, say, I want to name a beneficiary. They're going to say, well, you mean POD? You're going to say, yes, I mean POD. They're going to hand you the form. You're going to fill it out just like you filled out your beneficiary designation on your life insurance policy. So I'll start with the life insurance policy. Husband has a life insurance policy, and he's filled out the wife as the beneficiary, and he's filled out the wife as the beneficiary. He dies. And Safe Fidelity is the one managing this life insurance policy. Husband dies, and they're going to say, okay, well, he's dead. And, oh, he filled out a beneficiary designation, supposed to pay it to the wife, proof of identity, they pay it over to him. They are contractually obligated to pay the value of this life insurance policy over to the spouse. Again, the husband's will can say it goes to Joe Schmo down the street. Doesn't matter. Contract takes precedence. Title, contract, will. But what happens? Husband dies, and the wife, both of them died in the same accident, or she predeceased 10 years earlier. Husband's passed on, supposed to pay it to the wife. Can't. She's passed on. What was their desire, the will, as to the disposition of this property? Falls into the residuary clause of the last will and testament, the catch net of the estate, and passes pursuant to the terms of the will. This is what the will does. It governs to pass property, solely held assets, upon your death, and makes sure that no matter what happens, it's going to go where you want it to go, and not where the state or anybody else may want it to go. Thank you.